She stared at the photo like it might blink and tell her it was all just a mistake. I laid it flat on the kitchen table. No drama. No yelling. Just a quiet, "Here. You're with him. It's over." Her hands trembled when she picked it up. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead, that flickering bulb I always meant to replace. It made her skin look paler than it was. She looked smaller, too, like something in her spine had cracked without breaking all the way through. She blinked at the image, then blinked again. Her lips parted like she was about to speak, but no words came out. It was a good photo. I made sure of that. Blurry enough to suggest movement, clear enough to hurt. Her face tilted toward a man's, someone unfamiliar, someone conveniently handsome in the worst way. Their heads close, the implication obvious. It wasn't real. Not exactly. But she didn't know that. Not yet. "Who sent this?" she asked. Her voice cracked in the middle. That shook me more than I expected. I shrugged. "Does it matter?" Tears welled instantly, the kind that look unearned until you see the collapse behind them. "Of course it matters, Josh. It matters if it's true." She held the photo like it was a dying thing. "I didn't cheat. I don't even know who this is." "I don't believe you," I said. And I thought I meant it. She pushed back from the table. The chair scraped loud against the tile. She walked to the window, turned her back to me. That was when her shoulders started to shake. I remember thinking, this is the part where she admits it. The part where her tears shift into guilt and the truth spills out. But it didn't happen like that. She just stood there crying. Long, deep sobs that didn't sound fake, didn't sound rehearsed. I sat there watching her, waiting for something to shift, a crack in the mask. But nothing did. It was like watching someone mourn a betrayal that hadn't even happened yet. Because it hadn't. I should say this part clearly. She didn't cheat, Dot. She never did, Dot. That photo, I paid someone to doctor it. It was a test. I thought it was justified. Maybe still do. The idea had come to me slowly, like fog creeping in through an open window. Late nights she stayed out too long. Smiles at texts she wouldn't share. The way she started going quiet around me, not angry, just silent. I felt it in my chest before I could explain it. A dull pressure. A sense of something slipping. I thought if I confronted her with a lie, I'd find the truth. Either she'd confess or she'd panic. And panic, I told myself, meant guilt. But she didn't panic. She broke. "I haven't done anything," she whispered, still facing the window. "Why are you doing this to me?" Something twisted in my gut. For a second, I almost told her. Almost said it was all a mistake, a scare tactic, a warning. But the part of me that needed to know, that obsessive, bitter knot inside, kept my mouth shut. "I think you should leave," I said instead. She turned to look at me. Her face was raw, not just with sadness, with disbelief. She looked like she'd been hit. "Josh, take a few days. Stay with your sister. Or a hotel. I don't care. I just can't look at you right now." And she left. I stood alone in that kitchen afterward, listening to the echo of the front door closing behind her. I thought I'd feel righteous, like I'd reclaim some power. Instead, all I felt was the hum of the fridge and the faintest trace of her perfume still lingering in the air. I sat down, stared at the photo. The image was perfect. Too perfect. I could see now how staged it looked. The shadows were wrong. The angle strange. I hadn't noticed it before. I didn't want to. I only needed enough doubt to believe she might have done it. And now? Now I wasn't sure what I'd actually proven. A day passed. Then another. She didn't reach out. No long apology. No confession. No angry text demanding I believe her. She just vanished from my life like she'd never been there. Like I'd been the one caught. And that's when I knew. I'd made a mistake. But that's not where this ends. Because 2 weeks later, she came home. Her bags in her hands. A new tightness in her jaw. And something colder in her eyes. I tried to explain. Tried to say I was wrong. That I believed her now. That I'd only done it because I was scared. not because I wanted to hurt her. She nodded. Then she kissed me. Then she forgave me. And that was when the real betrayal began. She came home on a Wednesday. No warning. Just the sound of her keys in the door at 6:43 p.m., like she'd never left. I was in the living room, on the floor, fixing the drawer from our coffee table that always jammed. I looked up as the door opened, expecting maybe a delivery or some neighbor knocking by mistake. But it was her, Elena. She walked in wearing the same beige coat she always wore in the fall, like she'd just stepped out to grab milk. Her suitcase rolled quietly behind her, and her eyes flicked over the room like she was checking for damage. I stood up, unsure whether to speak or just watch her move. I hadn't seen her in 12 days. I'd spent the first 3 in furious silence, convinced she was hiding something, the next 4 in a spiral of doubt, and the final 5 in a state I can only describe as mourning. For her. For us. For the part of me I'd killed when I let that lie sit on the table and fester. She didn't say a word at first, just wheeled the suitcase into the bedroom, dropped her purse on the kitchen island, and poured herself a glass of water. Like this was routine. Like nothing had happened. I followed her, stupid with nerves. "You're back," I said, the words brittle as they left my mouth. She nodded, took a sip. "Yeah, I didn't think, I wasn't sure you would." "I know." That was it. No confrontation, no shouting, no tears. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like standing on a frozen lake and hearing the first crack beneath your feet. "I've been thinking," I started, "about what I did." She didn't look at me. "I was wrong." "I know," she said again. I thought maybe if you reacted a certain way, I'd be able to tell if." "You wanted to catch me," she finished. Her voice was calm, unnaturally calm. "So you planted a bomb and waited to see how I'd run." I had no response to that. Not one I was proud of, anyway. She finally turned toward me. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. She wasn't crying. That hurt more than if she had been. "Did you even believe it? Or were you just waiting for a reason?" "I thought I had one." She nodded slowly. "And now?" I stepped closer. "Now I know I didn't." Something flickered across her face, maybe pain, maybe contempt. Then it was gone. "I forgive you," she said. I blinked. "You what?" "I forgive you," she repeated, setting the glass down. "You were scared, paranoid, weak, but not cruel. Not really." She walked past me then, brushing my arm gently like it was any other night. I stood there frozen, barely breathing. Her words should have given me peace. But something in the way she said them, how flat, how measured, left me colder than before. The next few days blurred. She didn't touch me, not really. We shared a bed, but not warmth. She made coffee every morning like she always did, but didn't ask if I wanted any. She answered my questions with one-word replies, smiled when neighbors waved, laughed at her phone like nothing had changed. But everything had. At night, she lay on her side, facing away from me. Her breaths even, her shoulders still. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, unsure if she was asleep or just pretending. I stopped trying to reach for her. Something in me knew better. I started noticing small things. A new password on her laptop. Her phone never left her side. She'd leave the room to answer messages now subtle, but definite. And she began going out again. More than before. Once for dinner with a friend. Another time to her sister's. Then to a gallery opening I didn't know about. Each time she returned, her hair smelled faintly different. Not perfume. Just not familiar. I told myself it was nothing. That this was the cost of betrayal, not hers, mine. That I had to rebuild trust, not demand it. And maybe that was true. But one night, a week after her return, I heard her laughing on the phone. A full-bodied, delighted laugh I hadn't heard in months. Maybe longer. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, wine in hand, her back to me. She didn't know I'd come home early. I stood in the hallway, out of view, just listening. She said something low, a name. I think, and then laughed again. A high, musical sound that punched straight through my ribs. I stepped into the doorway. Who were you talking to? She turned slowly. Didn't flinch. Didn't even pause. Work friend, she said, smiling faintly. You're home early. Yeah. She set the glass down, her eyes still on mine. Everything okay? I guess. The silence stretched. She tilted her head. You don't trust me anymore. I want to, I said. Her smile sharpened just slightly. Then do. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I didn't mean to look, or maybe I did. But when I picked it up, the screen lit with a message preview. Last night was perfect. Let's do it again. Just say when. No name. Just the message. I put the phone down. Sat there on the edge of the bed. The air felt thinner somehow. Like the walls had pulled back just a little. She came out of the shower a minute later, towel in her hair, humming softly. She kissed me on the cheek as she passed. Morning. I didn't move. She didn't ask what was wrong. She already knew. The next morning, she wore red. Elena never wore red. Said it made her feel like she was trying too hard. Too obvious. Too seen. But there she was in a crimson blouse I'd never seen before, sipping coffee on the balcony like she hadn't just spent the night texting another man. The city spread out behind her, gray and indifferent. She didn't look back when I stepped outside. You working from home today? I asked. She nodded. Got a call at 10. I stood there, arms crossed, the silence stretching between us. I kept waiting for her to say something, anything about the message I saw. But she didn't. And I didn't ask. Because what would I even say? The truth was, I'd forfeited the high ground the moment I faked that photo. I had set the fire, and now the smoke was blinding me. Still, I couldn't stop watching her. The way she moved. The way she smiled at her phone, then caught herself and turned the screen away. The soft humming in the kitchen as she cleaned dishes we hadn't used. It was like she'd stepped into a version of herself I'd never known, one that wore perfume I couldn't name and walked with a kind of freedom I hadn't granted. Maybe she was seeing someone. Maybe not. The point was, I'd opened that door. And she was walking through it now, one calculated step at a time. That weekend, she said she was going to visit her sister again. Left Saturday morning with an overnight bag and her laptop slung over one shoulder. No kiss goodbye. Just a glance. Don't wait up, she said. I didn't. But I didn't sleep, either. I kept replaying it, that text message, the smile on her face, the gentle tilt of her head as she dried a wine glass like she was thinking about someone else. And I realized something I hadn't let myself say out loud. She was punishing me. Not with words, not with anger, but with space, with doubt, with possibility. The version of her I had imagined in that fake photo, she was becoming it. Slowly, deliberately, like she was proving a point. And I didn't know if I was meant to stop her or just watch. She came back Sunday evening. Not late, not early. Hair a little tousled, skin glowing like she'd been somewhere warm, somewhere far from me. I asked how her sister was. She said, tired. Work stress. Then changed the subject. We sat in the living room and watched a documentary about coral reefs. She curled up next to me, legs tucked under a blanket, like it was any other night. She even laughed at something I said, a real laugh, the kind that used to feel like a reward. It unnerved me. Later, as she undressed for bed, I caught sight of something I hadn't noticed before, a faint red mark on her shoulder. Not a bruise. Not quite. But not nothing. I stared at it too long. She caught me. Met my gaze in the mirror. Do you want to ask? She said quietly. I didn't answer. She turned around, pulling the straps of her top back into place. I won't lie to you, she said. Not like you lied to me. Elena. But I also won't give you the satisfaction of begging for forgiveness I don't owe. I sat on the edge of the bed. My heart was loud in my chest. Are you sleeping with someone? I asked. My voice barely made it to the edge of the room. She tilted her head, thought about it. I'm doing what you accused me of, she said finally. Isn't that what you wanted? No, I said. Too fast. Too broken. She walked past me, slid under the covers, and turned out the lamp. Her back to me again, just like before. I lay beside her, wide awake. And for the first time since she came home, I realized I wasn't afraid of losing her anymore. I was afraid of what she might become. A week later, I made the mistake of following her. I told myself I needed to know, that the uncertainty was killing me faster than the truth ever could. I waited until she left for her work dinner, a vague excuse delivered with the same glazed calm she always wore now. She took an Uber. I waited 5 minutes, then ordered my own. I told the driver to stay back. Said I was meeting someone, didn't want to arrive at the same time. He didn't care. He just nodded and kept his eyes on the road. We followed her car across the city, through the heart of downtown and into the quieter residential blocks beyond the river. Old trees lined the streets. Porch lights glowed in the fog. Her car stopped outside a brick townhouse. She got out, smoothed her coat, walked up the steps. The door opened before she knocked. A man stood there, tall, mid-30s, maybe, well-dressed in that quiet, expensive kind of way. He smiled when he saw her, that kind of smile that's not just from the mouth. She stepped inside, and the door closed behind them. The driver looked at me in the rear view. You good? I nodded. Yeah, just take me home. I don't remember the ride back. I sat in the living room for hours afterward, lights off, her glass of water still sitting where she'd left it. I stared at the condensation on the side, watched it drip down, slow and deliberate. It felt like the most honest thing in the room. I could have confronted her, could have raged, demanded answers, but I didn't, because I already knew what she'd say. You made this bed, and she wouldn't be wrong. Still, a seed was planted that night. Something dark, something slow-burning. Because it wasn't just that she had crossed the line. It was how easily she did it. How calmly she smiled as she walked into someone else's house like she belonged there. And how, when she came home hours later, smelling of a different world, she kissed me on the forehead and asked if I'd fed the cat. Like I was still part of her story. Like I hadn't been erased and replaced. I told her yes, I had. She smiled, then turned off the lights. The next morning, she left a cup of coffee on my desk. Black. No sugar. Just the way I hate it. A small thing, right? Forgettable. Dismissible. But I knew her. She knew how I took it. 2 sugars. Touch of cream. She'd made it for me every morning for 6 years. And now, she wasn't forgetting. She was reminding. I took 1 sip, bitter as ash, then poured the rest down the drain. She didn't ask how it was. That afternoon, I opened my laptop to check our shared calendar. She used to log everything there: dinner plans, meetings, reminders about bills or birthdays. It was how we kept track of life when life started slipping. Now the calendar was full again, but not with what I expected. Tuesday, dinner, Anton. Thursday, paint class. Don't wait up. Saturday, Jay's place. No explanations. No codes. No pretense. Anton. Jay. She wasn't hiding anything anymore. Or maybe she was never hiding it. Maybe she just knew I'd find it. That I'd look. That I needed to. I didn't ask about it. And she didn't offer. But that night, she wore the red blouse again. The one from her first work dinner. She didn't notice me watching her in the hallway mirror as she adjusted the neckline. Or maybe she did. She held her gaze a little too long in the glass, lips parting slightly, eyes softening, like she was looking at someone else behind her reflection. Someone not me. Big plans? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. She turned slowly, smiled faintly. Nothing exciting. Who's Anton? She didn't flinch. A friend. You label all your dinners with male friends now? She walked past me without answering, picked up her coat from the hook. Do you want to come? That threw me. What? Come with me, she said, slipping her arms into the sleeves. You want to know so badly. Why not see for yourself? I stared at her, unsure if it was a trap or a test or some twisted invitation I wasn't ready for. You'd let me come? She shrugged. It's not a secret, Josh. But it was. It had to be. I could feel it humming between us like an electric wire stretched too tight. Still, I shook my head. No, I'll stay. She nodded, grabbed her purse, and left. No argument. No guilt. Just the soft click of the door locking behind her. I checked her phone that night. I'm not proud of it, but I did. Waited until she fell asleep, the wine still fresh on her breath, her skin warm from the shower, and slipped it from the nightstand. No passcode. She'd removed it. On purpose. There were messages, of course. Some from Anton. Some from someone labeled just J. Others from people I didn't recognize. Most were mundane. Dinner times. Plans. A joke about parking tickets. But the photo stopped me. Not of her. Of me. Taken from behind, me standing at the kitchen sink, head bowed, arms limp at my sides. I don't remember the moment, but I recognized the grief in my posture. The guilt. The way my back curled like I was folding in on myself. She'd captioned it. This is what betrayal does. Look at it. Memorize it. It wasn't posted anywhere. Just saved. Tucked away in a hidden album. I stared at that image for a long time. Because she wasn't just documenting what I'd done. She was cataloging it. Building a case. And I had no defense. In the weeks that followed, we became polite strangers. She cooked dinner twice a week. I washed the dishes. We shared the couch, but not the air between us. Conversations were short. Civil. We laughed at shows we used to love, always a half-beat too late. It felt like playing house with someone who knew all your lines and none of your heart. One night, she walked in from work with 2 wine glasses and a bottle I didn't recognize. Try this, she said, pouring mine first. I looked at her. Since when do you bring home wine? Since I started needing it, she said. I took a sip. It was dry. Heavy. She raised her glass to mine. To honesty. I didn't toast. She smiled anyway. And drank. Later that night, I woke up alone in bed. Her side was cold. Her keys were gone. The wine bottle still sat on the table, mostly empty. One of the glasses had lipstick on it. She hadn't worn any when she poured it. I sat on the edge of the bed, the house too quiet around me. A hum in the walls I'd never noticed before pressed against my ears. I got up, wandered to her side of the closet. She'd cleaned it out. Half the hangers were bare. The shoes were gone. Jewelry box empty. Like she'd packed a version of herself and moved it somewhere else. But she still came home. Every night. Like clockwork. Eventually, I started keeping a journal. It was the only place I felt real anymore. I wrote things like, today she looked at me like she was deciding whether I deserved her silence. Or she wears new perfume now. It smells like endings. I didn't know what I was trying to document, her unraveling or mine. Maybe both. One night, I left the journal open on the desk. When I came home from work the next day, it was closed. Moved slightly. Like someone had read it, then changed their mind halfway through. She didn't mention it. Neither did I. But that night, she reached for my hand in bed. Just briefly. Fingers curling into mine. It felt like pity. And I took it. Because I missed her. Even like this. Even now. The next morning, there was a note on the counter. Written in her handwriting. Soft cursive, the kind she used for birthday cards and sympathy letters. There's someone I want you to meet. Come tonight. 8 p.m., the place you took me our first winter together. No name. No explanation. Just the echo of something long dead being summoned back into the light. I stared at the note. I didn't know if it was a peace offering or a knife. But either way, I was going. Because after everything, the photo, the lie, the coldness that followed, I had to know what she had become. Or maybe what I had created. It was already snowing when I pulled up outside the restaurant. The same place we'd gone to our first winter together. A dim little spot tucked between an old record store and a florist that never seemed to have real hours. She used to say it felt like something out of a memory. Back then, everything did. Now it just felt like a setup. I stepped inside. The warmth hit me first, then the music, soft jazz playing from some dusty corner speaker. Candlelight flickered along the tables. It was quiet, nearly empty, except for her. Elena sat at a two-top in the back, red sweater, hair pulled back, calm, like she'd been waiting. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just watched me as I walked over and sat across from her. "You came," she said. "You asked?" She nodded once. "Thank you." I glanced around. "So, who am I meeting?" She tilted her head slightly. "Me." I frowned. "You're meeting me, Josh. The version of me you broke. The one you tried to catch in a lie that didn't exist. The one you let burn in silence while you sat and watched." I leaned back, my pulse already pounding. "If you brought me here to..." "No," she interrupted. "Not to scream. Not to accuse. You already did that. I'm just here to show you what you wanted to see." She pulled a photo from her bag, laid it on the table. It was her, kissing a man outside the townhouse I'd followed her to weeks ago. His hand was in her hair. Her eyes were closed. It wasn't posed. It wasn't fake. It was real. I stared at it. My mouth went dry. "I hired a photographer," she said. "Same one you used to fake the first one. Found his watermark." I looked up at her. "You, what?" He didn't know who I was. I said I needed proof for a custody case. He gave me everything. I didn't know what to say. She smiled, slow and bitter. "You wanted a photo. Now you have one." "Elena." "Don't say you're sorry," she said, too calmly. "Not here. Not like this." She slid a small envelope across the table next. Inside were printed screenshots. Messages. Dates. Locations. A hotel receipt. "It's all real now," she said. "You don't have to wonder anymore. You made me into the story you wanted. I just wrote the ending." I sat there in silence. The weight of it, the planning, the timing, the precision hitting me all at once. She hadn't just cheated. She'd curated it. "What do you want me to do?" I finally asked. "Hate you? Beg you to stay?" "No," she said. "I just want you to know." She took a sip of her wine. Unbothered. Measured. "I loved you," she said. "Even after the photo. I was confused. Hurt. But I still loved you." "I know. But the moment I saw what you were capable of, the ease with which you broke trust to test mine, something cracked." I swallowed hard. "So you wanted revenge?" "No," she said. "Not revenge. Just balance." Her voice didn't rise. She didn't tremble. She spoke like someone reading a eulogy at the end of a very quiet war. "You taught me something," she said. "That love without trust isn't love. It's theater. And you were a hell of a playwright." My throat burned. So this was what? An equal act. She considered that. Not equal. Just honest. The waiter came by then, nervous, glancing between us. Can I get you to anything else?" Elena looked at me, her expression softening, but not with kindness. With clarity. "No," she said. "We're done." I paid. She didn't thank me. Outside, the snow had thickened. We stood under the awning, both of us hesitating. "Do you love him?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time. "I didn't," she said. "At first. But now." She let the sentence hang. "Was this always your plan?" "No," she said. "But once you showed me the ending you were afraid of, I figured, why not try living in it?" I laughed. A dry, humorless thing. "So that's it." "That's it," she echoed. We stood there in the cold, nothing between us but breath and memory. And then she turned and walked toward her car. No goodbye. No pause. Just the sound of her heels fading into snow. I drove home in silence. When I walked inside, the house was dim. She'd left the lamp on, the one in the hallway with the cracked base. And on the kitchen table, where it had all started, sat the original photo. The fake one. Still perfectly intact. Still perfectly framed. Beside it, a note in her handwriting. You wanted a reason to leave. I gave you a better one to stay gone. I stood there for a long time. Not angry. Not broken. Just empty. Because she was right. I wanted proof. I needed to believe she could do it, even if it meant inventing it myself. And now, with the real evidence in hand, I finally understood. The betrayal hadn't started with her. It started with the idea that I deserved to test her love without trusting it. And in the end, she passed my test, then gave me one of her own, and I failed. It's been 3 months since the dinner. She's gone. For good this time. No texts. No emails. Not even the final flourish of a legal notice. Just silence. The kind that's thick and permanent. The kind that means someone isn't waiting for you to respond. At first, I kept expecting the door to open. I'd hear footsteps outside, a key sliding into the lock, the shift of fabric as she dropped her coat over the railing. That was our rhythm. Even in the bad weeks. Even after the photo. But now the house stays still. Too still. She took almost nothing when she left. Some clothes, her laptop, 2 framed photos of her sister. Everything else, her books, her tea tins, the cracked mug she used every morning, she left behind. And somehow, that's worse. Like she didn't just leave me. She abandoned the version of herself that ever lived here. I walk through these rooms now like they're exhibits. Her side of the closet. Her shelf in the shower. The drawer where she kept spare chargers and scented candles. All of it untouched. A preserved absence. And I don't know what to do with any of it. I still find myself picking up her favorite cereal when I go to the store. Still reach for 2 mugs when I make coffee. It's reflex, not hope. My body hasn't caught up to what my mind already knows. She's not coming back. Not because I hurt her. Not because she hurt me. But because somewhere along the way, we stopped recognizing each other. And then we stopped wanting to. She found her way out of that maze. I'm still in it. I went back to the townhouse last week. The one where I saw her walk inside. It was empty now. Or rented by someone else, maybe. The mailbox had a new name on it, one I didn't recognize. I stood across the street for a while, coat pulled tight, watching like a man looking for a ghost. No sign of her. No trace. It's strange. All that anger I once felt, it's gone. Not forgiven. Just evaporated. Like grief that ran out of places to live. I know now she wasn't trying to destroy me. She was trying to make me see her. Not the woman I convinced myself she was, not the cheater, or the liar, or the myth I built so I could justify my own fear, but the real version. The one I never quite trusted. The one I should have. It was never about the man in the photo. It was about control. Mine. The fake picture? That wasn't a test. It was a confession. I didn't trust her love enough to believe it on its own. I needed evidence of guilt or innocence. It didn't matter. I needed a verdict. Something I could hold up and say, see? I was right to worry. And she gave it to me. Eventually. But only after I gave her the script. People always ask where it went wrong. They don't say it out loud, not directly, but I can hear it in their voices when they say, sorry to hear about you and Elena, or I always thought you two were solid. I used to smile, shrug it off. Say something vague like, life's complicated, or we grew apart. But lately, I've started telling the truth. I say, I gave her a reason to leave before she ever gave me a reason to stay. That shuts people up. Truth usually does. There's a photograph on my desk now. Not the fake one. Not the kiss in front of the townhouse. Just a candid shot from a weekend trip years ago, her laughing at something I said, wind pulling at her hair, sunlight hitting her cheek in that precise way you can't fake. She looks happy. So do I. I don't look at it much. But I haven't thrown it away either. Not because I want her back. Because I want to remember who we were before we taught each other to flinch. I saw her once, briefly, 2 weeks ago, on the sidewalk near the park. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and kept walking. Hard to say. She looked good, calm. She had that glow about her, not love, not even revenge. Just someone who'd walked through fire and come out the other side quieter. I didn't follow her, didn't call out, didn't need to. We'd said everything already in silence and betrayal, in the way we slowly stopped being each other's soft place to land. She's someone else's now, or maybe just her own. And me? I'm still cleaning up the wreckage of a test I designed to fail. Still living in a house full of echoes. Still learning that trust isn't something you measure with traps and fake photos. It's something you offer like a match in the dark, fragile, burning, easily lost. But when it's real, it doesn't need proof. It just is. And if you're lucky enough to have that once, you don't get a second shot. You just live with what you ruined. And you don't look away. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.